Hi everyone. If you saw our most recent episode, it starred one dress, which was a dress worn by Michelle Obama and designed by Norman Norell. So this episode will be about Norell a little bit more in detail with the pieces that we currently have in the store. Of all the American designers, Norell is one of the ones that is not necessarily most sought after at this moment in time, but is pretty much, I think, in every major museum collection. When I first started my business in 1981 in San Francisco, I was lucky enough to meet a gentleman from New York who I think had a crush on Norell, and he said he would buy whatever Norell pieces I had. And his name is Stan Weaver, so those of you that are in the business may have encountered him over the years. I don't believe he's with us anymore. But he did some wonderful trades with me, with pieces that I found, and I would trade him a Norell for an Adrian. In any case, I'm babbling. Norell was born in 1900 and he died in 1972. He was really acclaimed in the fashion industry. He was the first designer to receive the Coty Award. It wasn't called that in its time. But his signature pieces are, he uses jersey, all kinds, wool, matte jersey. His signature pieces are pieces that, well, for example, this gorgeous, in several iterations, known as his mermaid dress. In the 60s and 70s, if you had Norell on, it was a status symbol because his pieces were not inexpensive. In the 60s, this dress cost between $3,000 to $4,000, which is like, I think, what our house cost in the 60s. But I got to tell you, as a fashion lover, one of my pet peeves is when designers don't extrapolate, when they don't think about the longevity of their garments. Unfortunately, most of Norell's sequins fall off because if there's any pulling, like in the butt or in the shoulders, the threads break. So if you look over this piece, it's not balding in a lot of areas, but actually you can see areas here where it's balding. So if you're lucky enough to find a mermaid dress in excellent condition, good for you, because I think most of them need sequins resewn. Because of his popularity, the fashion world would be influenced and would resonate his designs on a less expensive level because $3,000 to $4,000 in the 60s was outrageous. So a great example of that would be this V-neck. I mean, you could probably see one of the Supremes wearing this, although they would get the real deal. And then this beautiful dress you have to see in real life because it has bugle beads and seed beads fringe all over. So it's a 60s does 20s dress, and it's in beautiful condition. We can't keep it hanging for long because it is balding in the shoulder area from the stress, and that's always a good idea. Is anything that has weight, you shouldn't hang for a long period of time. Invest in an acid-free box and acid-free tissue paper and let it rest, because otherwise you're going to have a lot of repairs to do down the road. And even besides the beading and the sequins, there is an element where the warp may snap. So you'll have splitting of the fibers, which is disastrous and is really hard to correct. I also wanted to mention that Norell used, he did these classic peacoats out of wool, and you'll find hundreds of these were sold back in its day. I remember going to a Doyle auction in New York in the late 70s, maybe. The clothing belonged to a woman named Precious, and her husband would buy her like the most extravagant clothing. She had dozens of Norells, and some of them were like very Zsa Zsa Gabor with ostrich feathers on the bottom. His philosophy was less is more, and you could see from the simplicity of his design, although his surface design is not less is more. More is more. So what's interesting about Norell is when he left Indiana and moved to New York, he went to 2 fashion schools, and then he went to work for 12 years, I believe, for Hattie Carnegie. And during that time, he also designed for Hollywood, and his clients were pretty impressive. In 1960, he started his own company, and because of his popularity with affluent women and celebrities, he didn't have a hard time finding a partner. He partnered with Anthony Traina, and they stayed together until Traina's death, at which point Norell bought the name and changed the company strictly to Norman Norell. I will tell you that from the standpoint of collecting, if you want to collect fashion, Norell's important. He is definitely one of the important American designers. So I believe that Norell's pieces are really important to have within private collections, museums, because he was such an influencer back in his day. He paid special attention to details and the quality of fabric. So if you take a good look at the construction and the work, your appreciation level for him will raise. What's beautiful too is that this is a young man who ventured out from the Midwest, from Indiana, and his designs were so powerful that he influenced the French designers. And when you look at how he cut his pieces, one of the things that people really loved was the way he created a neckline. His clothing wasn't fussy, and neither was he. He was not a bigger-than-life personality. He was a very humble, kept to himself, very gentle personality. So how he was able to rise and succeed in the fashion world is pretty miraculous. In closing, I want to say thank you to all of you who have stayed with us throughout the year during these very strange times. I want to say I'm proud of all of the Americans that went out to vote, regardless of who you voted for. Exercising our voice is really important, and I'm just glad that that's behind us now. And I also want to say that I'm grateful to have this platform because so many of you have been very generous in telling me about things that I didn't know, about other references, or identifying something that I was unsure of. So I love the dialogue. Please keep it coming. I'm not responding as quickly and as well as I have in the past because I'm overwhelmed. And I'm grateful for that. So I think it's wonderful that we have an engaging group participating and watching these videos. I want to say hello to Kenneth in Ireland, and hello to Eric in Nebraska, and thank you all for your interest and your positivity. So be well, take care, and let's get to 50,000.